Hello everyone, this is Judd Cole from CodeHealer Group, and I'm here today to talk to you about using CodeHealer to monitor and improve Delphi code quality. I'm going to give you a quick introduction and talk a little bit about source code analysis and verification, an overview of the CodeHealer features, and then the majority of the time we'll spend looking at CodeHealer in action on some sample projects. And then we'll wrap up with a summary and, of course, take any questions. Basically, I've been around as a technology partner since Delphi 1 first came out. Those of you who may remember Blinker and Blink Inc. We also had two other products, Shrinker and Delta Patch, that were both written in Delphi and worked very well with Delphi. CodeHealer Group itself has been around since 1999. And CodeHealer itself has been around since about 2005. Currently it supports all Delphi versions from way back version 5 all the way through to the latest XE7, and of course it runs on all versions of Windows since XP. And I'm sure no one has to tell you that software quality and reliability is critical, particularly critical these days, and static code analysis, in other words, analyzing the source code of the program rather than while it's running, is a relatively mature way of improving your software quality. And I think it's also pretty obvious and pretty common knowledge that the earlier one can find bugs in the development process, the more money you can save, or the less expensive it is compared to finding something as you're about to ship, or even, heaven forbid, after you've actually shipped the product. Code analysis can also help monitor quality and productivity of both the software and developers, because you can run a report on a regular basis and compare over time. And these days, computers are powerful enough that running these analyses can be part of the build and test process. One doesn't have to wait till the end of a 3-month development cycle to actually run these. They can be run daily or even multiple times per day to keep a much tighter hold on the state of the application. And of course, in order to do so, they really should be fully automated. CodeHealer then actually checks code for potential errors, and we'll look at some of those examples of the types of errors in more detail in a minute. It also helps you assess the quality of your source code through metrics of certain information, like numbers of lines of code, all the way up to calculations such as cyclomatic complexity, which we'll talk about a bit later. That in turn allows you to monitor program or project progress and performance, because as you said, you can compare reports over time and get the differentials, and that gives you a better feel for how things are going. And then taking that information, you can project forward, which can help with estimation of both the project and software development itself. And lastly, it can really help us understand existing or legacy code that one didn't write oneself. Producing reports can really help with that. And of course, these days we can all use all the help we can get. CodeHealer itself then essentially analyzes typically whole Delphi projects, but of course it can be pointed to individual source files or folders of source files. 3 different types of reports: audits and checks, which are more looking for bugs and potential issues, and then metrics, which is more the counts of functions and procedures and lines and so on. A full unattended operation mode, allowing it to be run without human intervention, obviously, and we'll look at that in more detail a bit later. It's able to import all the settings from Delphi that it needs, including library paths, editor source control settings, and all those sort of things. And it's been designed from the start to be easy to use, to get up and running and produce meaningful reports. But then once you get the hang of it, to then be able to configure it in a number of or many different ways. And of course it comes with comprehensive help file and tutorials to help you get started. That's about enough on CodeHealer talking about it. Let's actually have a look at it in action. Okay, so here we are at the main CodeHealer screen, and we're going to start the demonstration by creating a new CodeHealer project from an existing Delphi project. I'm going to browse to the controls demo project that comes with Delphi. I'm going to open that up. CodeHealer automatically detects the version of Delphi, the most recent one that's been used to build the project, but that you can override now or at a later stage in the project preferences. We can leave it as it is by now. And that's basically it. We now save the CodeHealer project in the same location as the Delphi project file, and we're now back at the summary page here, and we can see certain basic information about the project, such as the main Delphi project file, the version of Delphi we're using to emulate it, and so on. In the project preferences section, we can control a whole load of different options to do with the library paths and folders to include and exclude in the analysis. We can also control things like the headings on the exported reports and so on, and we can include the implementation sections in library modules to create a full analysis of all parts of every unit. So let's just save those as they are, and that's how we create our CodeHealer project. So let's proceed to performing an actual analysis on the project. CodeHealer will parse through the different source files and then show us the issues that it's found. Some of these are purely warnings, such as these directive names used as an identifier. If we select a particular one, we can have it pulled up and see the exact source code. These are all acceptable, although not necessarily advisable. And the same with use of keywords as identifiers. We see here in this case it's obviously got the ampersand prefix, which allows a keyword to be used as an ordinary identifier. Then we've got identifiers hiding other identifiers of the same name. This situation can occur where you've locally declared a variable, a class, or something else, and it either at a higher in the interface section of the unit or even in another imported unit, you've used that same name. And this name hiding can sometimes introduce insidious sort of errors. And then the last category that it's discovered here, 2 unreferenced local identifiers. So this constant line length here has been declared but never used, and this class has been declared but never used. So those are the default checks that were performed, but if we come up here and select this button, we can see there's a number of other checks that are available, and within each one there are a number of sub-settings that can be defined, such as including certain other variable types beyond the defaults, unreferenced local identifiers. You can also include parameters and record fields and so on. So you can configure the results that are displayed, and then you can also control the grouping of those results. By default it's grouped by analysis name, but you could potentially group it by module name. A couple of the other options that you've got up here, we have an Edit in Delphi button. We're displaying the source code within CodeHealer, but if we select the Edit in Delphi, if we have an IDE running, then it will display the result in Delphi itself. So it positioned us, it opened the source file, and it just positioned us on the particular line and column causing the error. So full IDE integration there. If we go back to CodeHealer, pick a different one, and then go edit in Delphi again, we see it takes us immediately to the error concern. So that's a very helpful feature if you do then want to go and immediately fix it up. And then finally we've got export up here. We can export these results in a number of formats. We can choose PDF or HTML files, CSV or text files. So a number of different formats for those reports. The benefit of CSV and TXT files will become more apparent when we look at automation a bit later, because you can save snapshots and part of your automated build can compare the output with a previous snapshot to look for any differences. Okay. So let's now look at the other tab on the main screen, which is the project metrics screen. This is the other type of analysis that CodeHealer will perform. If we calculate metrics on the project, it will again go through all of the source files, give us a list of the source modules, and then give us a breakdown of various metrics for the total for the project and also for each individual unit or module within the project. So if we pick this source file here, coming over the right hand side, we can see it has 9 used units, total number of characters, lines, average number of branches per method, and average number of loops per method. And that leads us then to a cyclomatic complexity, which is a mathematical sort of definition of the complexity of each individual method or procedure. And essentially that is a reflection of the number of branches or alternatives that exist in the flow of a given module. So that's a well-known method of analysis for complexity of source code, and basically the higher it is, the more complex methods are, and so that would be a flag to come back and take a look at that module and try and simplify it. We've also got a number of commented code lines, pure code lines, significant comment lines, and so on. So these percentages here are also quite significant. They will give us an overall percentage of comments. So as we can see, not many comments in this particular module. And then we get a breakdown of the various entities that make up the module, classes, interface objects, and so on, keywords, directives, and so on. So a total for each of these modules, and then a total for the project as a whole. You can view these immediately as a text report like that, and also in an HTML view like that. And then of course you have an export capability as well, and you can export as before to PDF, HTML, CSV, or text file. And final, one last option is you can copy the results to the clipboard. You can also copy just a list of the files, the modules list, to the clipboard as well. One last thing to look at before we wrap up is the general CodeHealer preferences. Lots more preferences applying to the whole of CodeHealer, controlling the wizard and controls and settings, the user interface style, where you want to store your CodeHealer projects, some defaults for printing and exporting the default format. IDE integration, you have got quite a lot of control here about defining what happens when you click on Edit in Delphi. You can tell it to run any running IDE or a specific version, or even to use a text file if you prefer. The source code highlighting, you've got all kinds of settings here, just like in Delphi, and those can actually be imported from Delphi as well to match your current development environment. Internet, obviously automatic updates, you can turn those on and off. And then actually there's an integrated translation manager for those of you who prefer to work in a non-English language. There you can create your own translations. We would love for you guys to submit them back to us if you ever did them, and we would distribute them and obviously give you a credit for them. But you can essentially create a translated version of CodeHealer and manage that here. So that's about it on showing you CodeHealer. Just a couple more things we'd like to say to wrap things up. We'd mentioned earlier CodeHealer's unattended or automated operation mode, and I wanted to come back to that for a couple of minutes. Certain automated build tools already include specific CodeHealer integration, specifically Final Builder and Automated Build Studio. And then other build tools can make use of our comprehensive command line parameters to integrate CodeHealer and its analysis into your continuous integration process, so that you can automatically run CodeHealer reports and export the results. And in particular with the text files, you can even save those files off and compare them to previous results. And in fact, for the CodeHealer build process, we do exactly that. We save a text file and it is automatically compared to the previous one, and if there's any significant differences between the two, it actually triggers a visual difference program to be displayed in front of the developer, showing the two side by side, so they can actually check whether the change was intentional and the test suite should be updated, or whether there really is something that requires further investigation. So let's look at some of those command line parameters. Some general ones: you specify the CodeHealer project file and whether you want just an analysis or whether you want to run metrics. You can set certain expected values where an error level, which can be picked up by the build tool, an error level is set if a particular expected value is not met. You can also set target values which are greater than or equal to or less than certain values, and again an error level is set if that condition is not met. You have control of logging. You can save logging output to the console or to a file name. You can also export the results to the various formats that we talked about. So PDF and HTML are obviously more for sort of more visually oriented, but the text versions are very useful for visual differencing, as we described just now. So both the analysis and the metrics reports can be exported in a variety of formats. And so here we have a couple of example command lines here. The first one we can see just tells it a project file. It says run an unattended metrics, and the metrics expected lines is 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we get a different number of lines, then that will set an appropriate error level. Second line, slightly more complicated. It also exports the analysis to an HTML file. So I think you get the picture on the command line capabilities. So just in summary, source code analysis can really help improve the quality and reliability of your software. CodeHealer makes performing that analysis very easy and can be integrated into your development cycle because it's fast and efficient. And also, even finding just one bug by running CodeHealer could help pay for CodeHealer just right there. So just all I can do is encourage you to try it out on your own code. You can download the trial from www.codehealer.com. It's only about an 8 megabyte download. As you've seen, you can be up and running with it very quickly. And the trial version is fully functional. The only restriction is that it only displays a subset of the issues that it finds. So it will tell you it found 10 issues, but will only display a subset of those. And of course, we're doing a special discount coupon for watchers of this video. So just enter the coupon code TechSpot at checkout time, and you will get the special price of $179. So with that, I will thank you all for your time and hand control back to David, and look forward to your questions.
A couple of attendees, Tom and Paul, were thinking back to the days of Blinker and Clipper.
Golly, yes, good memories, chaps. Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah. And then Alexander noted, he said, it seems like the UI is built with DevExpress VCL controls. Am I correct?
Yes, that's right, yes. Yeah, we use a number of third-party products in ours, and certainly, yes, the VCL controls are one of them.
Excellent. Trying to get this last slide up here. There we go. Okay. And then Alf had a couple of question kind of comments. First one, he was giving you a feature request. I think, you know, I've seen this in the Delphi or Pascal language as well. When you see something like A.B.C.D, what is that really? You don't know. Is it an object with a structure, with a method, you know? And he was suggesting maybe a good feature would be to have some analysis that goes beyond and figures out what units you might be using, see if you can spot or rework some of the code.
Right, yes. We the metric support does include a number of used units, but obviously that's extremely high level. There is an option to enable a browsable source tree, if you like, from within the CodeHealer IDE. So that will that gives you a sort of a drill down of everything that is that appears or is declared in the given module. But yes, we do not currently go to the extent of analyzing that or producing reports on that. We obviously have to analyze that and be aware of that so that we can check certain things. So yes, great idea for a future feature, and duly noted. Thank you.
And then he had a question about if he's saving to a log file when he's doing weekly runs, for example. Is there a way to choose a file name based on time of run?
Yes, absolutely. That's right. The log file name, we allow you to choose a template string, and we use the standard Delphi template variables. So I think it's %D for the date, %T for the time, and there's a couple of others in there like the project name. So yes, you can control that. So your automated build tool can actually put that name together, or you can just get the parameter, pass those template variables, and then CodeHealer will fill them in at the time that it's run.
And then while others might be putting questions in, I have a few questions, and maybe you covered one of these, I'm not sure. I see you can process projects. Do you also support processing project groups? Or do you have to do it with individual projects?
Yeah, individual projects at this time. Yeah, so you would, yeah, basically it's project based. Now, you can create your own project groups, I guess, by in that dialog you can add multiple DPR files. So the wizard supports one, obviously, to get you going, but you could then add a second and a third, and you can also switch it to use just a list of source files, or even a folder containing a list of source files. So you can vary, but typically to get a good complete analysis, a project basis makes the most sense.
Yep. No, that's good. And this ties into, I think Alf had another question about how much time it takes, for different size, number of lines of code. And I was going to also ask, is there any limit other than memory and time to the size of a project?
Right, so there is not, and I don't have a sort of millions of lines per minute figure, but typically it's millions of lines per minute, so it's fast. It really is. I mean, the demo that you saw, yes, that's a controls demo. So that has to wade through quite a lot of the Delphi VCL, because we do analyze all source code of the VCL and the RTL and so on to get a complete picture. But even then, yeah, as you saw, that really was only a couple of seconds. So a million-line program it's seconds rather than minutes. It really is.
Yeah, one of the other thoughts I had about doing some of the analysis you're doing, since you're already parsing and going through everything, is it might be interesting to track certain language constructs in the in the Delphi language. For example, are people using generics or anonymous methods or whatever? I don't know if you do any language feature specific analysis.
Not to that extent. I think, yes, again, a great idea. No, so obviously the basics of procedures, functions, methods, that sort of thing, and but no, not at that level. But I think, again, a great suggestion if people think that would be useful. I think that might be getting a bit esoteric for the majority of the audience, but for us language geeks, I think, yes, it's fascinating. I'm excited already.
The only sort of use case I can think about is if a company had a ban on using a certain language feature, like the with statement and the
with statement, yes.
But in any case, we can also do a grep for those things and find them.
Yes, no, I think that's a really good point about the with one. Well, of course, that battle still rages on, doesn't it? But I think the general opinion is it's not good.
Yeah, there's a question here about either you mentioned that you can do a diff after the fact, and I'm not sure if you launch a specific your own diff or one that's out there somewhere, because Alf is also saying, are there tools to compare the logs to see what changes have been detected in the source code?
Right, yes, it's not built into CodeHealer in any way. Essentially, you would either do it manually or through your automated build tool. But yeah, there's a number of tools out there. Beyond Compare, Scooter Software is one that we know and love. That's a commercial one. ExamDiff actually has a free one, EXAMDIFF. So just search on that. They have a free one with pretty good features, and then they have a paid one beyond that. There is another one called DiffMerge, which is free as well. That one comes from the guys that do, I think it's that do Volt. Eric, what's his name? He does Volt anyway. So yeah, so those three certainly, and the expensive ones are $30 or $40, so not a whole lot. And those are great. You can use them on the command line to compare two files. You can use them interactively from Windows Explorer, so you can right-click on a file and say, remember this file, and you right-click on a second file and say, compare it to the previous one. But most of the time, yes, we use it within the automated build structure, and it basically checks an error level for CodeHealer, and if that's non-zero, then it automatically then just pulls up the difference on the developer screen.
Yep. Let's see. Alpha is just saying he uses Beyond Compare and WinMerge.
Yes, that's true. As I was talking, I was thinking WinMerge was another one, and that's a free open source one. Can't go far wrong on that. So yes, absolutely.
Yep. Then I had one other one. A bunch of our customers are still using and have some projects on older versions of the product, what I call the pre-crossing the Unicode chasm into later. We want to paraphrase from Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm book.
Right.
And I didn't know if there was anything that you're thinking about doing or already doing to do some analysis, since you're in the source code again, for use of things that might have issues with the move to Unicode. I know we have some warnings you can turn on in the ID when you're doing a build of a project for things like pointer math and certain constructs of things like using sets of characters and such. I don't know if you had anything or were thinking about anything for CodeHealer.
It's certainly been on the list for quite a while, yes, but we do not have anything at this stage, and 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 to be honest, it's not high on the list. I think because so many people who are going to make that crossing have. I mean, by all means, prove me wrong. Email email us and tell me that I'm totally wrong on that. But I think the information we have is most people have made that if there's any urgency on that. So
Yep.
we've not seen that as a high priority.
Yeah, it only pops up occasionally. I mean, when I do the analysis of who's on which version, most of the people are on later versions. Some of them still have the older versions. That's why we offer that Delphi 7. If you have XE7, you can download Delphi 7. If you've got some older projects, some people just don't have a reason to move some projects forward. So
right,
they might use additions. And it was good to see CodeHealer supporting, IDEs and versions backwards too. That's great.
Yes, back to XE5, which I guess was probably where would that be? About 98 or something, was it?
5, so I don't know, maybe 2000. I'd have to go back. I did the 20 years of Delphi during Delphi Week.
Yes, yes.
So I have that slide deck somewhere to go back. And it's also on SlideShare if people want to look back to see when certain years came in. Just search for SlideShare David 20 years of innovation, something like that.
Yes, that was great.
Yeah. So those were all the questions that I had and that were put in there. I'll probably think of somewhere between now and 11. Do you have any sort of last comments or words, Judd?
I mean, certainly thank you, David and Embarcadero, for setting this up. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. I would just say go to CodeHealer.com, pull down the demo version. We've just released the version 3 in the last week or so with a lot of new features and a lot of updated compatibility, obviously taking us up into XE7. Try it on your own code. I mean, you can try it out you can have it up and running within a couple of minutes. We'll obviously do support on the demo. And the limitation of the trial really is that it'll tell you I found 27 of these types of errors, but I'm only going to show you the first 5. So it's going to taunt you. And of course, if you took the time, you could fix the first 5 and then it would show you the next 5. But I didn't tell you that.
Chris asks, what, if any, limitations are there in the trial version?
Okay, yeah, the main limitation is that it runs through everything as normal. When it comes to that final list of the issues that it finds, it will tell you I found 10 of these, 50 of these, 100 of these, but it will only display the details on the first 5. So it will taunt you, tempt you, and of course, I didn't tell you this, but of course you could go through fix one and then run it again, and then you'd get an extra one on the list, and you could work all the way down the list. But that's really the main limitation. There is a 30-day timeout on it. So after that time, it will encourage you to purchase it. But other than that, fully functional, completely functional, so you can run it on as many projects as you want, as large a project as you want. Earlier today at the 6 a.m. time, someone asked if you were using the DevExpress components, that they saw some of the looks in CodeHealer. And Julian Bucknell from DevExpress is one of the... Hey, Julian. And of course, that's particularly entertaining because that's my real name as well, Julian. But that's incidental. Hey, Julian. But yeah, so you're using DevExpress components and other components, right? That's correct. Yes, we use a number of third-party tools in there. Was it Nostis, PDF stuff, and yes, as we said, DevExpress, and Madshi exception handling, and various other ones. So obviously, the whole thing is written in Delphi. Yep. So Gary's saying I was a CodeHealer user back in version 1. I haven't upgraded, but now I have XE7. It means my old CodeHealer doesn't know about it. What's the update process? Sure, yes. Well, we just released the version 3 this week, so we're sort of still preparing the update emails, but you should then next week get, as a prior user, if you're a registered user, then you should get an email with a very aggressive price. I think we're doing it at $89 to upgrade to the latest and greatest, which then includes everything from Delphi 5 through XE7, and of course is the start of the 3.0 series, so there'll be other updates to that 3.0 series that will be free during this period. So Gary, as long as you've got an existing serial number, it'll be an $89.
Excellent. Oh, I like that one report line that came out. Significant comment lines. There was 44 or something. What's a
Yes.
significant comment line? A really long line or
Because you've
multi-line
got things like compiler directives and so on, which are strictly speaking comments. So a significant comment line is just where there's something textual actually of use, as opposed to just a compiler directive or something like that.
Got it. It's a nice phrase, significant comment line.
It's stronger than just useful, vaguely useful. Now, of course, we don't do any semantic analysis on it and spell checking or anything like that. But
and then, if you have other questions for Judd, he is here, and we're here, so you can put him in the Q&A. Richard's asking any limitations with FireMonkey apps?
Not that we're aware of. No, I mean, obviously its history has come up through this sort of the Windows background, but as far as we're aware, you can run it on your iOS and Android FireMonkey apps as well. Essentially, it uses the source code as part of the analysis. So typically, you get a much better analysis if the source code is available, which obviously it is to FireMonkey and so on. So no significant limitations that we're aware of.
Richard's asking how long is the discount code good for?
Yes, in a rash moment this morning I said 3 months, so 3 months it is. Yeah. So 3 months, yeah, end of, what are we now, February, so end of, whatever that is, May.
End of May?
End of
okay.
May.
Excellent. Last couple minutes with Judd. Any other questions? I think I hit some other things this morning, and we'll have those in the replay and some of the other questions people asked. I think there wasn't any limit really on the size of a project, and I think you said you could add multiple project files to the list, even though the wizard asks you to choose one to start, right?
Exactly right, David. Yes, that's right. By default, it picks up one DPR, but there's no reason you can't put more than one DPR, or DPK, obviously, for packages. That's still a project. But typically, we find it's most relevant to analyze on a project basis. So you might have 2, 3, or half a dozen CodeHealer project files because sometimes you want to set the options differently, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and then put them into your build system or.
Yes. I think to me that is just, I cannot emphasize that enough. It's included as part of your build process and have the reports checked when they come out the other end. Yeah, and there's a number of error levels that were set based on various things, whether we found something major or whether it was just a mismatched total from an expected value and those sort of things. So you can take various actions depending on the outcome.
And then you mentioned difference, and earlier today you said people can use whatever difference tool they have, right?
Yes, that's right. So we don't have any integrated differencing, so we'd expect that you would export the reports, but then probably optionally based on the return code, then the build tool can then kick off a difference between a previously saved version. So as I mentioned in the thing, we in the CodeHealer build process, we analyze a large number of projects, and we have a stored previous output, expected output file, and then we generate the new one, and we do a quick comparison, automated obviously, and then if there is a significant difference, then it will run one of the differencing tools, the ones we mentioned this morning, Beyond Compare, Scooter software, obviously great product. That's sort of our favorite. That's a commercial one. There is also ExamDiff, which has both a free and a commercial one. And then WinMerge is on SourceForge. That's a completely free and open source one. And then the other one is DiffMerge, I think it's called, from the guys that do Volt, but just search for DiffMerge. That's also free. Volt being a source version control software. So yes, any of those you can integrate, and from the they take on the command line the name of the left-hand file and the right-hand file, and up it comes on the screen. And then you can sift out, you can ignore blank space and that sort of thing, so that you only get significant changes.
Great, great, Judd. So thank you very much. Any last words for everybody on this time slot?
Thank you, David. Same as before, thank you. Thank you to Embarcadero for great product, great support and everything. Thanks to everyone for listening. And please go try it on your own code and let us know. Let us know what you think, what you need, etc.